and friends gathered this week to remember Michael Wright, the actor whose work spanned nearly 5 decades of American film and television. Born April 30, 1956, in New York City, Wright built a career defined by intensity and range from his early breakout in The Wanderers, to his Volpe Cup-winning performance in Streamers, to the role that made him a household name, Eddie King Jr. in The Five Heartbeats. He died August 19, 2026, in Los Angeles at age 70, after heart failure and complications from a rare degenerative neurological disease. His wife, Susan Wright, delivered an emotional tribute honoring both the actor and the man behind the roles. She recalled how audiences knew him as Eddie King Jr., the troubled, magnetic singer in The Five Heartbeats. The voice, she said, that could break your heart and make you believe in redemption at once. She remembered him as Elias Taylor, fighting for humanity in V, and as Carlisle in Streamers, carrying the weight of war and identity with a fire that won him the Volpe Cup. She listed the characters that defined his career: Victor Duncan in The Principal, Clinton in The Wanderers, Ray Nathan in Sugar Hill, Omar White in Oz. Each one, she said, brought fully to life because Wright refused to play any of them small. She recalled his own words, that the greatest sin an actor can commit is to fail to be interesting. He never committed that sin, she said. He made audiences lean in. But to those who loved him personally, Susan said, Michael was far more than the roles the world knew him for. He was her husband, a father to Manon, Byron, Brittany, Brianna, and Sir, and a grandfather to Yoko. He was, she said, a quiet force in their home, whose talent on screen never overshadowed the man he was at the dinner table. Susan described meeting the man behind the performances only after the world had already claimed pieces of him, not a star, but a soul of quiet intensity and tenderness. Wright, raised by a mother whose restaurant sat in the heart of New York's theater district, carried that world with him for the rest of his life, she said, into every role from The Wanderers onward. He trained hard and never took the craft lightly, whether preparing for The Five Heartbeats or his later run on Oz. At home, though, she remembered him as soft, even playful, someone who could sit in silence and make it feel like the safest place on earth. She spoke about his role as a father, recalling his protectiveness and his desire for his children to see that a man could be fierce on screen as he was in The Principal and Sugar Hill, and gentle at the dinner table. Becoming a grandfather, she said, softened him further. Holding Yoko, he'd get a quiet smile that said the world could wait. In those moments, she said, he wasn't the actor from V or Black Lightning. He was simply Papa. Susan acknowledged that their life together wasn't without hardship: long shoots, late nights, and the private struggles every family carries. Through it all, she said, Wright stayed present, remembering small details of daily life even amid a career that spanned Miami Vice, New York Undercover, and The Interpreter. He had a way, she said, of making ordinary evenings feel sacred. Susan reflected on the through line of his artistry, that it was never about fame but about truth. Whether he was playing a gang leader, a resistance fighter in V, or an inmate on Oz, she said he brought the full weight of his humanity to the work, making complicated men understandable, making pain visible without exploiting it. That, she said, was a rare gift, one that let generations of viewers see themselves in his performances, from The Five Heartbeats in 1991 to his final film role in 2025's Dope King. In his final chapter, as illness claimed pieces of the body that had carried him through decades of work, from Streamers in the early 80s to Black Lightning in 2019, Susan said his spirit never left him. Even as words became harder, she said his eyes still spoke. Love, gratitude, a quiet fight to stay a little longer. The family told him the stories of his own life and career, she said, the triumphs that never made the papers, and he held them in return for as long as he could. Susan described the emptiness his passing has left behind: a quieter house, a stilled chair, a voice she now hears only in memory. But she said she feels him everywhere. In the light across a room, in a song from The Five Heartbeats, in the faces of their children and grandchild. She closed her tribute by describing Wright as a husband who treated marriage as a daily choice of devotion, a father who showed his children how to stand tall and bend with compassion, and a grandfather whose smile could light a room. Love, she said, doesn't end, it becomes memory, legacy, and the way the family will go on living because of what he taught them. To be interesting, to live fully, to never settle for less than truth. Susan thanked fans for the outpouring of love, memories, and condolences since his passing, saying the family has been reminded of how widely Michael's light reached across a career that touched The Wanderers, Streamers, The Principal, The Five Heartbeats, Sugar Hill, V, Oz, and Black Lightning. She asked for space for the family to grieve what she called an enormous and deeply personal loss, adding that more details on how they intend to honor and celebrate him will come in time. Michael Wright, husband, father, grandfather, artist, beloved, April 30th, 1956, August 19th, 2026. See you in the next one.